About a year and a half ago, I did a review of Lewitt's first audio interface, the Connect 6. Now, even though the Connect 6 is a good interface to this day, there were some complaints about it, especially with people saying it wasn't very user-friendly. And I can understand what people are saying. All of the settings and everything had to either be changed in software, which some people don't like, or you had to use the big button dial thing on the top of it and just navigate the settings with that. But Lewitt took note of all those complaints, and in May of 2024, they released the Lewitt Connect 2. Now, I'm not necessarily one to talk about company slogans or product slogans a bunch, even though it feels like I do that a lot now, especially with Lewitt's previous microphone, the Ray, that has autofocus for your voice, which every content creator under the sun said that exact phrase, but it was a good description of it. So now I'm going to say the slogan that Lewitt came up with for the Connect 2. Lewitt is saying that the Connect 2 is the most user-friendly audio interface. Now, that's a pretty big statement, and whether that's true or not, I really think just depends on the user and how you like using your gear, and if you mind using software or don't want to. But I will say I am happy that they are embracing the notes surrounding the Connect 6. Now, the Connect 6 isn't all bad or anything, it is still very solid, and currently that actually goes for $299, where the Connect 2 is coming in at $199. The benefits that the Connect 6 has over the Connect 2 is purely just the amount of inputs. The Connect 6 has 6, and I'm sure you know where this is going. The Connect 2 has 2. There you go. So when it comes to that, the Connect 2 is a bit more limited. However, they fixed one very big issue that a lot of people complained about with the Connect 6. They added a high Z quarter-inch input to the Connect 2. Guitar players and musicians were just not happy that the Connect 6 did not have that. When it comes to the inputs and outputs of the Connect 2, I don't really feel like it's missing anything, especially compared to its competitors. The Connect 2 has one XLR input with 72 decibels of gain, a quarter-inch high Z input with 60 decibels of gain, a left and right monitor out, a quarter-inch headphone jack, and also a 3.5mm headphone jack. Additionally, this does have a USB jack, and you'll use that provided USB-C to USB-C cable to plug that into your computer or device. And if you do need a USB-A connection for your computer, this actually does come with a little USB-C to USB-A adapter. And just to cover all the bases real quick, this does come with a couple Lewitt stickers and some Lewitt cable ties. As far as inputs and outputs go, this is nearly identical to the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. However, this does have the extra 3.5mm headphone jack. And you might be thinking, hey, why are you comparing the Focusrite Scarlett Solo, the 4th generation, to the Connect 2? The Solo's on sale for $120 right now. The Connect 2 is $79 more than that. And that is a very good point. That is absolutely true. But where the Connect 2 really differentiates itself from the Solo is its usability, customization, and its features like onboard DSP. And a massive difference between the two is the Connect 2's design, like the look of it and how it's laid out. It is wildly different from the Solo. have you seen this thing? It is so thin. At its thinnest point, it's like a half an inch. And even at its thickest point, which I think is like an inch and a half, it's still a little bit thinner than the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. It's just crazy. And I've got to admit that when Lewitt sent me the pictures of the Connect 2, I wasn't the biggest fan of the look of it, but I've got to say it has absolutely grown on me. And actually the form factor of it has been really convenient. I've got to say the build quality is really solid. Yes, there is quite a bit of plastic on it and everything, but it doesn't feel bad. The material of it does feel good, but I've got to say it does like fingerprints. It likes keeping them, saving them for later. But in addition to that, it does clean off really easily. And while we're talking about the look of it, I do want to mention it does have nice little LEDs that are completely customizable. You can go into the software, choose what colors you want when it's muted, what the meter looks like, when there's gain reduction, just all of the things. You can customize it however you want. Now, I'm sure some people think it's a little silly. Some will like it. I honestly just don't really care either way. Did I customize my colors? Yes, I did. Did I have fun? Well, I did it. I sure did. But let's talk about the Connect 2's features and how it works. Do a little walkthrough. On top of the Connect 2, there are several different touch-sensitive buttons and a little track wheel style circle thing. The thing in the middle that looks like an iPod. I guess the technical term for the kind of buttons that these are in the little wheel is capacitive touch. Now I'll try to do this in the most logical order possible. On the left, there is a little microphone icon. If you select that microphone and then use that little wheel in the middle, you can set your gain. Same goes for that little guitar icon underneath. That's for the high Z input. Now before I move to the next button, there is a button in the very middle of that little track wheel. If you press that, that will activate auto gain. Then you'll select what input you want auto gain to be applied to, and then you'll go back and press auto gain one more time. At that point, you will perform whatever you're going to do, whether it's singing or spoken word, for 10 seconds. Then it will automatically set the gain for you. Now under the guitar icon, there is a little circle looking icon thing that is actually customizable. So if you go into the Lewitt Control Center software and go to the settings, there's an area that says custom button. And as of now, there are 8 different functions that you can apply to this custom button. Personally, I left it on the show control center option. That's the default one, because if I'm doing like a live stream or something like that where I'm looking at different tabs online or in different softwares, if I just want to quickly get to my settings, I just press that and it pulls the control center up. It's great. But I may eventually change it to the different mute options, which are really nice. And speaking of the mute button, I'm actually going to skip that for now. We'll get to it in a second. It'll make sense why I skipped it. Now on the right, there is a little speaker monitor looking button. If you select that, then you will be changing the level of the left and right monitor out. Underneath that, you of course know that icon. That is the headphone volume control. So you'll select that, use that track wheel in the middle like the other options, and adjust your headphone volume. Now the next one on the bottom right is a little shuffle looking icon. If you have that to the far right, you'll only be able to hear your computer audio. If you have it to the far left, you'll only be able to hear your direct input signal. But if you have it in the middle, you'll be able to hear both of them. But obviously you can dial it into your heart's desire. If you wanted a little bit more computer audio or a little bit more direct input signal, you can do that. Now last but absolutely not least, the mute button. Now the way the mute button works is if I select the microphone right now and then press mute, it will only be muting the microphone. The same thing goes for the 1/4 inch high Z input and also the left and right monitor out, as well as the headphone out. So you can individually mute any of those by selecting them and then pressing mute, very similar to if you were to change the gain or level on any of them, but instead of doing that, you would just press mute. If you do need more mute options, there are some of those in the customizable button settings. So I'm on the Shure SM7B, a dynamic microphone that does require quite a bit of gain, but during this section I'm just going to briefly walk you through the actual software. One of the things that you are going to want to pay attention to is the sample rate up top. So we have 44.1, 48, and 96 kilohertz. And then there are the settings that I did in fact show earlier, and you can go through and select what you want there. But one quick note that I do want to make is the high impedance headphone mode. I would turn that on, and I probably would turn the high volume speaker mode on. But one of the most important things, especially for beginners, is the auto setup. So if we click that, it will take us through a guide of whether you want to do microphone, guitar, mic, and guitar. We want to do microphone, and then here is a choice between condenser and dynamic. We're using dynamic. And then perfect vocal recording. Remove low end rumble. I will go ahead and turn the low cut on. And now we have the part that's going to automatically set the gain. So we're going to start measuring. And then we have the different preamp modes: clean, warm, and vivid. Clean is going to be just unprocessed. Warm is going to be like a smooth, rich, high end. And vivid is going to be like very top heavy, meaning a lot of treble. I'm going to go clean just because that's what I would do. And then, would you like a compressor? You know what? Sure, I would love a comp. And then, would you like to reduce background noise? For the sake of this, I will do it. And then for the denoise, you will want to be completely quiet while you're setting it up. And then the next question is, would you like to use clip guard? And I would say that this is one of the biggest draws to the Connect 2. But if I was just normally recording, I wouldn't have it on. But for live streaming, I would. And then here it's going to show you the list of everything that you turned on and used. I'm going to turn it all off, and then we'll go through each of them and just show you what it does really quick. So right now I have the clean preamp on, and I'm going to enable the high pass filter. There's the high pass filter. Here's how that sounds. And now there is no high pass filter. We don't need 48 volts of phantom power with this. It's not going to hurt the SM7B or anything, but I just won't turn it on. And now I have clip guard on, and one note I do want to make about that is that it will kill the audio for just a split second. And same goes for turning it off. I'll show you real quick. And test. Okay, so yeah. But now clip guard is back on, and I'm going to do the one thing that I know will clip a dynamic microphone, a low metal scream at 57 decibels. It should work. Ooh. Okay, yeah, that definitely worked. One thing that is really cool about clip guard is it does show you the gain reduction, which can be nice so you know when it is enabled. And then of course you have your gain dial, which I will turn down and slowly turn back up right now. 10 decibels, 20 decibels, 30 decibels, 40 decibels, 50 decibels. Now this is where I had my gain set, and this is where it auto set up. 60 decibels, 65 decibels, 70 decibels, 72 decibels. But you actually can select this little A right here, and it will run auto gain. Now currently you are listening to the clean preamp. Now you are listening to the warm preamp. And now you are listening to the vivid preamp. Now for denoise and compression. Compression is very simple. You just simply select it, and it does turn your gain up slightly. You could hear it go up a little bit there, but notice there isn't any gain reduction right now. But if I wanted some gain reduction, I'd need to be louder, or I would need to turn up my gain. So now the denoiser and compressor are enabled. Now I did just enable the clip guard also. And last but of course not least, the mute button. I will mute it from the software. And there we go. But then of course you'll get a mute button for the high Z, the loop back, the speakers, and the headphones. But now I will just briefly show you the instrument, the high Z input with the guitar. So it has the high pass filter, the clip guard, you can change your gain, you can auto change the gain. It has clean, warm, and vivid preamp sound, and it also does have denoise and compression and a mute button. But now I am going to automatically set the gain. So change it to 12 dB, and I'm just going to play a few chords and change it between the clean, warm, and vivid preamp, and I'll also throw in the high pass filter. So now I have the clip guard on, and one thing I do want to mention really quick is that I haven't been hearing my guitar whatsoever in this first little section. But if you do want to hear your guitar and your microphone, if you want to hear both or either or, you can go over to the direct input signal and select that, and then you will be able to hear both. So now I'm going to bump the gain up on the guitar to like 25 and have the clip guard enabled and see how it goes. You might not want to use clip guard on the instrument part. Or at least have it dialed in closely. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better when it's closer, but still not great. But now I'm going to enable the denoise option for the guitar. Now I'm going to enable the compressor. And this dim option just affects the outputs, and it will just lower the speaker. And then of course you do have the option of listening to the device in stereo and mono. And then the last thing is this input playback dial. And the way I like to look at it is that left, I'm essentially just listening to the raw audio from the actual device. Then if I go all the way to the right, I'm in the computer playback option. And you can tell currently nothing is playing through my headphones or my outputs. It would just be the playback option. So I like to keep it in the middle and kind of have a mixture of both. But one thing people were curious about is the gain output. I would assume a reviewer touched on it. And just so you know, this whole time I haven't had any issues with gain. But just for your peace of mind, I will just slowly turn this down, and you can tell that I'm not having any gain issues, and I will grab the actual device and I will turn it up, and you can tell that I'm not having any gain issues whatsoever. As you can see on the screen right now, I did actually test out quite a few different audio interfaces. And I know it's not perfect or scientific or anything, but I use this exact microphone around the same level as my speaking voice, and I made sure that all of them were hitting negative 12 decibels. So I'm going to show a really quick back and forth with those different audio interfaces, as well as the Connect 6, and we'll see how it sounds. But once again, this is not perfectly scientific. I'm just hoping to see what the noise floor level is like around 56 decibels, and see how it supplies the SM7B. So I'll do a spoken word test and then I will be silent. So currently I'm exactly 2.5 inches away from the SM7B, plugged into the Connect 2, and now let's go ahead and move on to the next audio interface. So now I'm 2.5 inches away from the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, and here is how this sounds at 56 decibels of gain. I am a little bit disappointed that I'm not using the Solo in this test, but the 2i2 is what I have, and it does have the exact same price as the Connect 2. Keep that in mind, and you could get an additional Hi-Z and XLR connection for the same price. But I am really curious how it's going to sound against the Connect 2. It doesn't have all of the features that the Connect 2 does have, and I will say that the Solo has even less. And now we've moved on to another quick test from the Audient EVO 4. And let me just say that 56 decibels of gain is getting up there for it, because this is actually only capable of 58 decibels of gain. So this is almost maxed out for the EVO 4, but in all fairness, the EVO 4 did come out quite a few years before these other audio interfaces. I believe the EVO 4 came out in 2020. But this is one of the reasons I wanted to include it in this comparison, is you get 2 XLR combo line jacks, 1 Hi-Z jack, and it's only $129. But it is very software based, and I would actually say it's where the Connect 6 drew a lot of inspiration from. Now for the device that I almost forgot to put in this review, the Vocaster One. I've been dealing with some health stuff, some of which I like to call a TIA. A TIA is what I went through, and that's why I've been out for like a month. But anyway, here's the Vocaster One. It currently goes for $150. However, it has been on sale a lot recently, and it's been under $100 a majority of the time. So the Vocaster One doesn't have the Hi-Z that the Connect 2 does have, but it does have a camera out and a phone in. But it also doesn't have the 2 headphone jacks that the Connect 2 has, so you're kind of flip-flopping on some stuff. And the way that I would put it is that the Connect 2 is better for musicians. The Vocaster is a no-go in that, right? So this next test might be a little bit bizarre. This is the Connect 6, and for whatever reason, at 41 decibels, it was supplying the same amount as 56 decibels on the other interfaces. Now, one thing to note, on the actual Connect 6 dial, -6 is the beginning decibels. So with that being said, it would be 47 decibels, but that's still kind of a far cry from 56. So yeah, I'm sure there's an explanation for it, but I just don't care to find it. On the actual meter, it looks like I'm hitting very similar, nearly identical. And let's see how the Connect 6 sounds versus the other 3 options. And now a quick noise floor level test with no spoken word. Now we all know what really matters in this interface competition, and that is what the cats pick. So we are off. It looks like Blue is giving an early half a point to the Connect 6 and then the Vocaster. But not so fast. Penny is on the right side giving a half a point to the Connect 2. While Blue is going in a straight line, giving the Evo 4 a half a point. Holy Jody Foster. Blue just sat down at the Vocaster, giving it 1 point, while Penny gives the 2i2 a half a point. This all comes down to Billy. Oh my Sarah McLachlan. Did that just happen? Billy comes in and picks the Connect 2, which wins 1.5 points to the closest Vocaster 1 point. Now let's go ahead and move on to my review section, my opinion of the Connect 2. Just briefly to note real quick, I am using the LCT 240 Pro with the warm preamp compressor on, no denoiser in the Connect 2. Now I'm going to list some negative and positive things. I'll start off with the negative and then we'll get a little bit positive. Now, depending on your specific needs and what you want to do with the Connect 2, this next one may be a big deal or not a very big deal. For me, this is a big deal though. The Sennheiser 650s just aren't very powered by the Connect 2. Even when it comes down to the high impedance headphone mode, it just doesn't cut it. It's close. It really is so close, but I just can't see myself listening back to this with the Sennheiser 650s or even my 32 ohm 770s. But to be clear, it is fine with these Audio Technicas, my Sonys, and my Rode headphones. Now the next con is that it doesn't have any dedicated buttons to any of the DSP. For instance, the clip guard, the high pass filter, the compressor, and the denoiser, you can't find on the actual device and you have to enable it in software. So if you're a person that's just planning on buying this and just using it as a physical device and not downloading the software, you're going to miss out on some features. I mean, I get it. You're plugging it into a computer anyway. What's the big deal with using the software? But some people just don't like that extra little bit of software. And to be completely honest, I'm not one of those kind of people. But they do comment here quite a bit, and I've got to speak out for them. Now this next one is a little bit contradictive of the slogan, but there are no controls for the compressor or the denoiser. And I think that's a pretty big deal, especially with the Connect 6, that you can open up the compressor and edit the actual functions in it, like the threshold, the ratio, and everything. But you can't do that with the Connect 2. But, and this is a giant booty, it's supposed to be the most user-friendly audio interface. And I don't think that the most user-friendly audio interface would have that. You would just click it on and it would be good to go. I think it'd be really nice if it had the default compressor, but then you could double-click it and go in and edit it if you wanted to, but you didn't have to. Same absolutely goes for denoise. You go in and you adjust the threshold, and it would be substantially better in my opinion. So this last con is my final con, but it kind of goes to play in a couple different ways. One of which I will say, if you are a dedicated musician, this isn't the device for you. If you are a dedicated guitarist, this isn't the device for you. If you play guitar and you stream or podcast or something like that, this is the device for you. And if you stream, this could be the device for you. Now that sounds a little bit weird, but here's my thought. The Vocaster exists. It does, and it is very cheap. So yes, I do think the Connect 2 is better all around, but the Vocaster is no joke. And actually, I just barely looked up the price. It's back at $150 for some reason. It's been $100 and under pretty much exclusively for the last little while, so I don't know if that's going to stick. But actually, since I've been talking about this last con, I've been using the Vocaster. So now to go through some of the pros about the Connect 2. It has plenty of clean gain to drive pretty much any microphone you want. And the noise floor really isn't bad. I do think the 2i2 did beat it. The 4th gen 2i2 in the low section when it comes to noise floor is ridiculous. I think the addition of the high Z input is absolutely huge. And to piggyback off of that, I really think the Connect 2 pretty much fixes every issue that people had with the Connect 6. Now, honestly, I can't believe I'm going to say this next one, but I kind of like that you use like the trackpad, track wheel, whatever, to set the gain. But here's the thing, people are going to misunderstand it. They're going to misuse it. Don't put your finger at 40% and move it to 55% and think it's going to follow that. It seems weird, I understand, but if you're going to try to just gradually move it a little bit, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Just slide it, just wherever you want to go. And that's the cool thing about it, actually, is that you can't just press the 0 area on the trackpad and it's going to go to 0. You got to slide it. You got to do it. But there is one other thing that I will mention, and that's the headphone jacks. The 2 headphone jacks, one with the 1/4 inch and one with the 1/8 inch, is just so cool. I can have 2 different pairs of headphones plugged in at the same time. It's awesome. And I don't think that it is the most user-friendly audio interface. Because in my opinion, that's one that you just set up and you go. And I really do understand what Lewitt was going for. But I just think it's a little bit hard to say that you're the most user-friendly audio interface and really nail that. Whereas with the Lewitt Ray, you were like, hey, it has autofocus for your voice. Yeah, it nailed that. But with the Connect 2, the Slogan is trying to tackle too much. And maybe for some people, it really will be the most user-friendly audio interface. But I think for a majority of people, it won't be. But now it's time to get to the BBSAR, and I'm going to give this a 7.5. I understand that I labeled some things bad, but overall this is a great device that just works. And I did have a lot of time with this device, even more time, I'd say, than most products. It's been living on my desk ever since I got it. It's been pushing music and podcasts and whatever I've listened to in the last 2 months, just through my speakers or through my headphones. It's been great. Like I mentioned, I would like it to power my HD 650s a little bit more, but it's okay. Now, I do want to say a big thank you to Lewitt for sending this out prior to release. Sorry it took forever to get this review out. And another big thank you goes to the subscribers, and the biggest thank you goes to the Audio Hotline members. I'll see you audio nerds next time.